Hello, Mags here again. I thought we'd have a little bit of a play today. I've created this rusty grungy looking panel on watercolour card, and I thought I'd show you how I did it. It's fairly easy, a few steps and a few bits of drying in between, but relatively easy. The inspiration behind it started when I came across a scrap of wallpaper. This is actually wallpaper that I'd saved from an old sample book, and I loved the riveted look, but I wanted something a little bit more industrial looking, a bit more rusty. So I thought I'd have a go at creating it. So I've chosen to work with quite a lot of PaperArtsy products. I've got 3 of the Fresco finish chalk acrylics. We've got Niagara Falls, Blue, Bayou and Rusty. That's those. I'm also going to use a couple of my sprays that are created using the PaperArtsy Infusions. This is the just Walnut one. I've also used the Rusty Car. I love these, and I just put a reasonable amount, I can't tell you exactly how much, in the bottom of, actually I mix them in another container first, a little jar. The water and the walnut crystals or the Rusty Car crystals. Mix them well so that all the crystals have dissolved, and then pop them into these little mini spray bottles. So we've got those. I've got a variety of brayers. This is my little PaperArtsy one. I've got another couple of little brayers as well. The other thing I use is this, which is Stabilo All. And it's water soluble pencil basically. I don't know if the number means anything. 8046. It's a black one anyway, and it goes onto paper, glass, plastic and metal, but it's lovely when you mix it with water, but I'm actually going to use it dry, so there's that as well. So I'll pop my brayers away for the moment, just out of the way. My card that I'm going to use to create the panels is 300 GSM watercolour card. It's a fairly smoothish texture. So, and I've just cut an A4 sheet in half. I've got 2 panels because sometimes I use up paint on another one to create 2 at once. So we'll get started. I'm going to start with the blue Bayou. Give it a really good shake, and I've got a half tile here that I'm just going to use as a palette. It's just a little floor tile. I'm going to put some of my PaperArtsy paint out on there. I don't know if that's in shot, but I'm just putting a small amount out. If I put those to the other side I can get it in shot maybe. I think that's about there. And then I'm just going to use this little brayer first. Brayer the paint out on my little palette, just so that my roller gets covered. I've got an underpaper under here just to protect my surface. And then I'm just randomly going to bray it onto my sheet. You want random marks, you don't particularly want even. It doesn't matter if they're darker in some places than others. That's what you need, a fairly random coat. And it doesn't matter if some of the white shows through as well. I tend to always go up and down or side to side, but you can do whatever you want. I'm going to work on both sheets at once, basically because if I put too much paint out I don't want to waste it, and I'll get a slightly different effect on each one. So, right, now I've still got some paint left on my tile, so I'm just going to go in and pick as much of that up as I can so it isn't wasted. So we've got the first coat on our 2 sheets of card. We'll now go with another, so we've done that one. So we'll go with Niagara Falls next. Do we? No, we will go with Rusty next. Again, I'll give it a shake up. And I'll put a little bit out there. And we'll go with this brayer for a change. Again, we're rolling it out on our tile. And then we're just going to, again, randomly brayer it on. And some places you'll get more than others. Doesn't bother me. That's the first one. Come back in with the second. And because I'm doing 2 sheets, in between applying paint to one and then the other, the first one will dry. So by the time I put the next layer on, the first one will be dry. Just need a little bit more because this is we've got a lot here and not so much there. I'll just put a tiny little bit more. You really don't need much of this paint. Gives a real... This one's a translucent one, the Rusty. It's one of Sepia colours, and it's actually translucent, so you can see other colours through it. Not transparent, that's a different thing. So we've got a reasonable amount of Rusty coloured on there. Alright, so I'm going to swap back to my first paper and brayer again. I'm just picking up any excess paint. There we are. Go back to our first paper. And I'm going to put some Niagara Falls on. It's all about building the layers with this technique so that it looks really grungy. So I'm going to put some Niagara Falls on there. Again, brayer it out so I get a even coverage on my brayer. And I'm just going to skip again over the top. And you'll see it gives a better effect because you've got the layers. So the rust looks embedded into the layers. It's not such a sitting on the top look, so to speak. Alright, I think I'm happy with, oops, if I can get hold of it, that one as the first one. Don't worry about the white, we will cover the white up later. Got some nice marks on our under paper for later. There we are. So again, that's a nice layered look. I'm going to pop my brayers away for now. Out of the way. Set these aside a minute. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move my paper up so that when I use my sprays we don't completely coat everything on my desk at the back. So I'm just going to move these out of the way. And we'll move that up so it just shields the things on my desk. See if this is... That's not quite dry, so I'm just going to give it a quick blast with my heat gun just to dry it off. Would have been a good idea if I had my heat gun plugged in. Yeah, that's right. So now I'm going to give both of these panels, I'll do them together, it'll be easier, giving them both a blast with my Just Walnut Infusions spray. Which seems to be jamming a little at the moment. It's one of my older spray bottles, so it does jam a little. Alright, so that's the Just Walnut. And then I've got the Rusty Car, which I'm just going to give it some random sprays as well. Right, then we'll give that a blast. I'll dry this and then we'll come back. Right, so we're back. I've dried the panels of card. They are slightly warped, but they'll eventually straighten out. I'll put them under a big heavy book to flatten out. I did give them, once I dried them, I gave them another blast of walnut just to fill in any areas that were too bright white. So I think out of the two I've decided I'll work on this one. This is the one where we went up and down this way with the brayer. I do like this one as well when we went side to side, but these little dark spots, they're interesting, but they're just, I might add a bit more, just a couple more sprays of Just Walnut just to move those a little bit, because you can just build the layers of sprays up until you're happy with the result. But this one, it's got some nice interesting mottly textures, so I think I'll just check and make sure we're in shot. Yes, we are. We'll work on this one. I forgot to mention you need a ruler as well. So I'm going to get, let me see, which one did I have for this one? I've got a Unipin fine liner because I need to just draw a line, or a couple of lines on here. And then I also need something which I've forgotten to get, which is just a mark making tool. Here we are. That's it. I thought I was prepared, but obviously not. So I want to do a junction of where sort of like the panels would meet. So I think we'll go that way over, and I'll have just doing this by eye. We'll join a line across here. This is just a permanent marker. It's a 0.8, so it's not a really fat one. I might go a bit heavier with one actually. Yeah, let's see if I can get a bit thicker one. I've got that one, a 12 in a micron. So you can use whatever permanent fine liner you want. That's better. It's a bit more of a definite line. There we are. That's better. So we've got our lines. This is where I'm imagining the 4 panels of rusty metal are joining. I've got a little, it's the inside of a pen that stopped working. The ink's got right to the end, so it stopped working. And it's just this end that I want. I've got Ranger Archival Sepia and Ranger Archival ink Jet Black. I'm going to use both. We'll start with the Jet Black. I'm just going to get the end of my mark making tool, just jab it into my ink pad and then just make marks. I'm not going to do a lot. I'm just imagining where the rivets would be. There. There. Up here again. There. And if you don't get it right first time, just go back in again. You don't want a perfect result. I'm going opposite. You could go random. I just tend to like the uniformity of going opposite one another. There we are. I think I'll leave it at that. I could go to this edge and go slightly over the edge. That looks quite nice. And maybe here as well. So we're doing this with the black to set off with. And then just for an added bit of interest and colour, I'm now going to go in with the same tool with the sepia. But I'm going to go slightly to the side, so we're not exactly on the top. So I'm just going slightly to the side. Getting fresh ink on the end of the ink refill each time. Oh, that was a bit out, but never mind, we'll disguise that. I'm just going a fraction to the right every time. We've done them all now. That's it. So you can just get, it just gives it that little bit extra. Right, now this is where our Stabilo All comes in. Just wondering if I should get another piece of paper, just go underneath it and then I don't get it all over my desk. Yeah, I'm just going so you can see a little bit better as well. So I'm going to go around the edge, but to set off with, I'm going either side of my black line. Now I'm not being ultra careful, I'm just shading at either side of the line. My husband said I should do one where I've got one plate overlapping the other. He's an engineer, so he knows the technicalities. I'm quite happy with this. I'll try the other later on, another day, maybe with the other panel, see what he thinks. So I'm just getting a little bit of the Stabilo All either side of the line. Some areas I'm going over the line more than others. Right, so that's that. And I'm also going to go to the right of each of these rivets. And I'm just doing a little semicircular half moon shape, and always to the same side, so always to the right, so that the light is coming from this direction in my imagination, so that the shading wants to be to the right. And just do that with them all. Probably get it all over my hands before I've finished. And then I'm also just going to go around the edge of my panel. I would normally do this when I'd cut it to fit whatever I was doing, but I'll show you what it looks like on the edge with this one as well. And again, very loose, you don't have to be perfect. This must be very boring to watch, but I promise it, we're nearly there. Right, so that's that. I'm now going to get a cotton bud. These are, they've got a cotton stem and then just the cotton bud at the end. Turn it this way up. And we're going to start with our lines, do the lines first. And you're just basically going to smudge it out either side of your fine liner mark. So we're just going to move the Stabilo pigment either side of the line. I go side to side to set off with, and then if it hasn't moved enough, just go either side of the line again to move it so it looks like it's shadow. And we do that along all the lines. If it's not moving enough, put a bit more pressure on it and it will move. I go side to set off with because it moves the pigment out from the line to look like shading, and then I can go back in and just reinforce it round the line. Once you've done that with all the lines, then I go back in, usually with the other end, and I just go round the side like that with my cotton bud. This is at one side of the rivet, bolt, whatever you want to call it. So that is adding the shading in and the shadow. And as I say, if you want it darker, just put more pressure on. And you can always go back in and add some more of the Stabilo All. So you see that gives a shaded effect to the rivets, nuts, bolts, whatever. Rivets or bolts, I suppose you would say they are. So we've done all those. I'll do this one, that one. I might as well do them all. I know I haven't done this line. And I start close to the, if you can see, close to the rivet, and gradually shade it out so it pulls the colour out and away. That one needs a bit more work. There we are. So you can see the difference that makes. That gives a bit of dimension to all the bolts or rivets. So once we've done all of those, I'll just do this line as well, and then it will save me going back to it later. And I'll just show you again how easy it is. And if you get too definite a line, just smudge it out away from the line, gradually less and less pressure until it sort of fades into the background. If you want, you can use your finger. You end up with very black fingers, but you can do that. sometimes if it isn't moving very much, just breathe on your cotton bud and it'll just put enough moisture in that it moves it. And I quite like the sort of almost textured look of it. And I would also go round the edge as well, smudging it out. But again, I won't do all of that now, but I'll just show you. I just go backwards and forwards basically, and it just smudges it out and it just gives it a nice border. So we've got so far. I now need a clean cotton bud, completely new one cotton bud. Dip it in some water, just plain water, and just use your fingers to get most of the water out. And then just on the little rivets, you're just going to dab it on, just where the rivet is, not where the shadow is, and you're going to remove a bit of that walnut ink. And it will just make them stand out enough. It just takes the walnut ink off them a little bit and makes, and the rusty infusion spray, and it makes them stand out. It just makes them pop a little bit more. Just enough to just take a little bit off. Not all of it, just enough to lighten them. And then they're more noticeable. And if your cotton bud gets too grungy at one end and it isn't taking the colour off, just go to the other end. There we are. So there we are, we've got our nice grungy, not quite completed because I haven't done the outside, panel. So I hope you like that. I was just going to try something, just experiment, and just wonder if one of our damp cotton buds would make it too. No, that's taking the colour off. We won't do that. Yeah, I was going to just activate the Stabilo All with a bit of water, but no, it was taking too much of the colour off. I'll just go around the outside. That's it. I've got the other edges to do, but you get the effect. Stand up and see if I can see what you can see. Hopefully you'll see what it looks like. Nice and grungy and worn and rusty panel. So I hope you like that, and I hope you give it a go. If you do, please tag me on social media if you follow me, and I'll be able to look at how gloriously grungy your panels are. And if you'd like to subscribe, I'd love you to subscribe to my channel. So have fun.